Hi friends! So, how are we all feeling about the Owl House ending?
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, same here. And, I mean, I can't blame you. It's a really incredible show and seems to be ushering in the end of what was a new era of TV animation. That being, light-hearted stories that start off as just your average episodic wacky hijinks that slowly but surely delve into darkness, madness, and an overarching plot that tends to involve fighting God in some way. And out of all of these shows, perhaps the single one that's gotten most buzz and love recently, and I add the word recently because Gravity Falls premiered over 10 years ago, okay, is The Owl House. And then you have its little sister series, Amphibia. Now, I've spoken about this before, but to give it my overall thoughts, I think it's a lovely little series that's usually just good, but every so often, out of nowhere, drops an absolutely 11 out of 10 episode or moment that just completely blows you away out of nowhere. So while Owl House, in my personal opinion, doesn't have quite as high highs, peak, if you will, it's like a consistent 9 out of 10 throughout all of Season 2, Season 3, and like the last third of Season 1. In comparison to Amphibia's general 7 out of 10, with 11 out of 10 moments every so often. Does that make sense to anyone else? Well, I hope it does. Now let's talk about Earth. Whoa, no, I'm not talking about real life Earth because, whew, no, I'm talking about the rather interesting fact that at the end of Season 2, after spending 2 seasons inside of this bizarro fantasy world, our main character and their friends find themselves back on Earth and needing to get back into the fantasy world in order to get their friends back home and stop a new and final most powerful threat. And then, well, things get different. Very different. You see, obviously, our characters need to get back to their world. But now, after 2 seasons of the human being a fish out of water in the magical fantasy world, those characters having to help her out at every turn, wouldn't it be fun for those characters to be having trouble interacting with everything Earth has to offer? That's pretty much how Season 3 for both series starts, and they both, admittedly in large part because of Disney's interference, handle it in very different ways. And yet there seems to be a big outcry from fans of both work. But why? Why is that? What's going on here? What is Amphibia and the Owl House's Earth problem? Well, first, quickly, let's pin down the source of people's problems with both series romps on our planet. And that is time. With Amphibia, fans of the Funny Little Frog show argued that the pacing of the show took a nosedive, with a large part of Series 3A being focused on the froggy hijinks and slice of life stories instead of either getting back to Amphibia or focusing on the building revolution that will play a huge part in the second half. And I mean, I suppose it makes sense enough, right? You're fans watching a show called Amphibia. I imagine that's what you want to see. Especially when the world is being changed so radically, such interesting new elements being introduced, and being stuck away from it 99% of the time. Yeah, I get that. But then you have the Owl House's way of doing it. To quickly TLDR, due to being cut short by Disney for the 3rd season, the Owl House will be going out on 3 extra long episodes, rather than a usual season's length. And so, this one double-length episode is the only one where the group is stuck on Earth. They get almost all the slice-of-life stuff and wacky hijinks out the way in a single big montage, so they can get back to the plot and returning to their world ASAP. And after what happened with Amphibia, that's probably the way to go, right? Well, apparently not. A lot of Owl House fans felt cheated. To make it clear, not because they got back to the demon realm so quickly, that part was a given, but because of what we missed out on. Take the fan art, for example. You'd be hard pressed to find quality fan art of Anne and the Planters on Earth outside of a couple of major scenes. But for the Owl House, there's so much fan art of the squad on Earth just having a good time, hanging out, and in the comments of every single one of these posts, you're going to find people sadly reminiscing on what could have been. You might start thinking this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But is it really just a grass is greener on the other side situation? Or is there something more going on here? Well, from the fact this video exists, I think you can tell I think the latter. And I think the major thing to talk about here is tone. I know, right? The most exciting of things to talk about. Woo! So let's talk about these shows and how it's really the core of the Earth problem for them both. See, Amphibia, for the vast majority of season 1 and 2, was indeed just wacky episodic slice of life escapades. Yes, every so often there was a surprising moment of drama or darkness, and those were absolutely amazing, but like 90% of the time it was
peace and quiet. A frog can really hear themselves think out here. Did you leave the stove on? The front door unlocked? Will you die alone? Well, that was a mistake.
And that's not to put down the show, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. But everything, and I mean everything, changed with the season 2 finale, True Colours, which probably deserves a video of its own someday, but I digress. This shifted the status quo unimaginably. A new, genuinely scary antagonist had taken his place. With the introduction of Anne's powers, the show seemed to shift with surprising ease from fantasy comedy with hints of action to a full-on fantasy action. And do I even have to say the shocking brutality of it all? Anne taking no prisoners when fighting her friend, the attempted killings, and sometimes successful destructions of the froggy friends we've grown to love. And something I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, that. While season 2 had been somewhat more serious and story focused than season 1, mostly, there was nothing that could have prepared us for this. I mean, even the episodes just before the finale were heartfelt and comedy focused, comedy gold I might add. And with a genuinely perfect cliffhanger ending and dark hints towards the future and a new intro, how would we follow that up? With a mostly light-hearted and silly season 3, eh? When you're binging the show, as I did, it's really jarring to go from this
For everything. Marcy!
to minutes later in real life and showtime, this. I'm not asking for a Disney Channel cartoon to go in depth into depression and missing children, but it really is bizarre how Sasha and Marcy just never get brought up beyond really offhanded comments. It just feels so off. Like, I know someone stepped in and told them to dial it down a few notches after how dark True Colours was. And after that, I mean, 3 isn't bad. There's a few real bangers in there, even if, you know, 2 of those bangers are somehow the only 2 where we see what's happening back in Amphibia. It's just highly disappointing that the shocking changes to the status quo and everything our characters went through in the undisputed best episode in the series seems to have been by and large ignored. Now, what about the Owl House? Well, here's the thing. As mentioned, we rush through these slice of life antics and shenanigans you might expect from these new characters being on Earth in a quick montage to get back to the plot. And since we just went through as emotional a finale as True Colours and King's Tide, you'd want that, right? Well, here's the thing. Owl House Season 2 was honestly pretty devastating for our characters all round. Not just the finale episode, but Hollow Mind was a speedrun for losing Hunter gaining trauma, Reaching Out was just crushing, Edge of the World removed any chance King might have of finding his biological family, Labyrinth Runners gives Gus the baton for trauma this time, and Yesterday's Lie gave our protagonist one big dosage of guilt for the road. If it's not clear by now, well, our characters needed a break. The general agreement seems to be that ever since Season 1 and the beginning of Season 2, our characters haven't had a lot of time to just relax and be themselves. They've instead been focused on developing their backstories, pushing the plot forward, and having intense character development. Now, this is obviously a much better scenario than just focusing on slice of life hijinks, and I'm not saying the two are mutually exclusive, you can absolutely have both. But they get back to Earth, and we do get these periods of our characters being themselves, and that's what the fans want to see. I've seen so many comments about how each of these pictures in Willow's scrapbook or the end credits could have been a fully fledged episode, or at least an A or B plot. People want to see these now well fleshed out characters bouncing off each other because it's so entertaining and well written. For all the controversy Amphibia Season 3A gets, somewhat deservedly, what it did give us was a whole lot more interaction between Anne and the Planters, which, while we weren't lacking in those interactions by any means, made the grand finale of the show punch you in the gut that much harder, I'll give you that. You know what, going over all of this, it looks like a lot of the problem just comes down to Disney. Huh. Honestly, Disney being the Earth problem is this close to being ironic enough to end the video on, but I can't just do that. But it's certainly true that both the Owl House and Amphibia were dealt bad hands when it came to their time back in Our Little Blue Ball. And I think both shows were able to go above and beyond the Earth problem when it came to delivering their finales. So far, I have faith in the Owl team. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'd be a traitor to my kind if I wasn't. But you know what would help bandage the Earth problem? New stories after the series, in the same vein of the Gravity Falls comics. So basically the fan comics, but official. Imagine that. The creators have said before that really the one and only way for fans to get new merch is to pester Disney. So take to the streets, take to the sites to ask for more Owl House and Amphibia content, and that is the message I'll leave you with today. Until next time, friends.
Oh, he just like me. He just like me for real.